Nintendo consoles thrive off of their long-running series and characters. I mean, just look through their big releases of a year like 2019. Pokemon, Zelda, Yoshi, Fire Emblem, Mario, and it's pretty easy to understand why this is the case. You play 10 fantastic games with Lasagna McOveralls and you're gonna be far more likely to try an 11th. This tactic works, and easily sets them apart from the other consoles, but I honestly think it's long made them too scared to try anything new. Why waste all that time coming up with new characters, new worlds, new stories, when you can just make Mario Tennis Ultra Smash? Sinning isn't that bad. But luckily for all of us, 2015 brought with it the game that would change all this. Radical Rex for the SNES. Splatoon was a hell of a game changer. Not only was it the first time Nintendo had gone all in on a new franchise in a long time, but it was a genre they really didn't have covered in the slightest, and also became successful beyond anyone's wildest dreams to the point that its first game outsold Mario Maker. I have two questions about that. First question, how? Second question, how? The game's success is a bit of an anomaly, but it just goes to show how much people crave awesome new ideas and how much creativity their game developers still have in them. And it only took them 2 years to try again with 2017's Radical Rex for the ARMS is a game that I find really interesting. It came right out of left field at the Nintendo Switch presentation, and immediately pretty much everyone agreed, what the f is that name? Smash Bros will most likely have a perfect chokehold on 2D Nintendo fighting games for the rest of all of our lives, so seeing them go for a 3D one was an interesting prospect, and the unique colorful characters and settings made it all look pretty great. When it finally came out, it certainly sold well, and now the characters have retained enough popularity to get one into Smash. The game itself though was met with a lot of sighs of disappointment and a large player base drop-off. It seemed like everyone could agree that the worst part of ARMS was actually playing ARMS. And that's why I thought it'd be interesting to talk about why I think ARMS failed. You know, it sold over 2 million copies, so you could really argue it didn't fail, but you could also shut up. I see no reason to waste time here. The problem with ARMS is that the developers seem to have a complete inability to commit. What do I mean by this? I mean that it doesn't matter if you have a million different options in your game if none of them are fleshed out enough to actually be engaging or fun. I think something that'll stick out right away to anyone who's never played ARMS is just how many different things there actually are to do. Aside from all the methods you have to play the main fighting, you also have V-ball, hoops, and skill shot. They can be fun little distractions, and much like every game that offers multiplayer, they're all fun with friends just waiting to happen. But that's the problem. They don't really offer anything aside from that. A game should be fun on its own, and that fun should be multiplied when playing with friends. And if I called up my friends and said, hey guys, you wanna play some ARMS? I'd have another couple restraining orders on my hands. V-ball literally just comes down to set it with grab, spike it with a punch, and that's really it. Hoops comes down to randomly getting lucky enough to land a grab, and even then it's sometimes just a coin flip. Skill shot is probably the best one, but there's still not much to it. Just hit targets and screw your opponent over with basic punches and obstacles. What's the point of these? I assume they're just to occasionally mix things up, but why would I when I could just play a different game that has more depth or the mode that clearly had much more time put into it? There aren't even a bunch of different stages you can play on. It's always the exact same courts, which means this gets old after like one game. But it could easily be argued that none of those modes actually matter. It is a fighting game after all, and thus the fighting is the main focus. And I'll give it to them. The fighting is 100% the best part of this game. And yet I'm still not engaged because they just can't commit. That's a marriage joke. When you make a game like this, it's important to pick a side, casual or competitive. Games like Dragon Ball FighterZ make it very clear that they're intended to be played competitively. Meanwhile, Smash adds a million options for casual players to enjoy, and many of the new characters and stages more often focus on interesting and fun ideas than competitive balance. ARMS has items that are carried down in the middle of battle, but they're nothing that a casual player would care about. One creates a ring that heals you, one creates a ring that fills your rush gauge, one explodes and does damage, and one explodes and disables your arms. The only way any of these benefit you is in terms of winning in combat, not in terms of wacky fun, so it's blatantly obvious that they want you playing for the win. That's why it's so unfortunate that playing for the win just ruins this game. Fighting is all about a mixture between offense and defense. In a game, you have to find that balance between incentivizing offense while still rewarding defense. Let me ask you something. Why should I ever throw a punch in this game? It sounds like a joke question, like obviously you have to throw punches to do damage to your opponent, but I'm not joking at all. Why should I ever throw punches? They move so slow that you're always going to be able to react with a defensive option, and so many of the characters have a bonus defensive option on top of that. Master Mummy heals when shielding, Twintel can always dodge out of the way because it slows them down even more, Ribbon Girl has a ton of jumps making her downright impossible to hit, sometimes Springtron is literally impossible to hit, Ninjara can teleport out of the way and immediately attack. Why should I ever throw the first punch? Sure, you can get grabbed grabbed out of your shield if you block too much, but normal punches go through grabs, so just wait until you see one to do anything. You are actively punished for attacking at basically all points that you're playing this game. And don't even get me started on the rush attacks. These ice cold horrors give you invincibility, which means if you just wait for the opponent to throw their punch first, you can activate it right as it's about to hit you, and not only cancel their attack out, but basically guarantee your rush to hit. So what I'm saying is, there really isn't a reason to attack, or a way to convince your opponent that they should. Granted, a lot of people are not gonna play that way, but in a competitively focused game, where winning is really all you can reach for, how can you justify stopping yourself? The way things currently are, a lot of games are just gonna come down to which of you gets bored enough to start attacking first. So how do we fix this? It doesn't seem super productive to just, god damn it. And I think it's reasonable to expect me to provide my own ideas for what they could do in future ARMS games. Idea number 1, don't make it a fighting game. This is a pretty over-the-top solution right off the bat, but I think it's one worth considering. The two things aside from the kick-ass soundtrack that everyone agrees are fantastic are the character designs and the world they live in, so why not ditch most everything else? Maybe it could be some sort of RPG where instead of collecting different weapons and armor, you collect different arms, and you have to pick and choose which party member gets which ones to deal with different scenarios. I know that's a huge jump, but the formula doesn't immediately lend itself to any other genre. Whereas it takes me all of 2 seconds to think of something like, man, Splatoon would work great in a Mario Rabbids style game. Idea number 2, weaken the defensive options. If someone throws a punch to the left, and then the enemy dodges that direction, they should get hit by that attack. The punches should really just track more in general, especially when your opponent's already in the air. I swear it's damn near impossible to hit an airborne opponent. And no more options that just straight up guarantee you're avoiding the attack. Those are bullshit. Idea number 3, increase chip damage or make the shields weaker. Yeah. Idea number 4, incorporate directional blocking. If you made the shield smaller and made it so there were different positions for blocking up, left, and right, then sitting back and letting your opponent wail on you would require much more thought and effort. For honor's good, I swear. And lastly, the one you all obviously saw coming, idea number 5, just pick a goddamn lane. If you want it to be competitive, focus on making that possible. If you want it to be a party game, then put more effort into the non-competitive modes. Add a stage hazard toggle like in Smash that automatically turns off in rank so that stages like Snake Park can stop just being a big piece of shit. I can easily see everyone disagreeing with all my ideas here, but that's fine, for all I know they'd make everything worse. These are just fixes to problems that I see. I hope nobody interprets this video the wrong way. I still kinda like ARMS, and honestly, I had more fun going back to it than I expected, but most people, I think, just felt it wasn't worth the time. The modes were too frustrating, the controls were too frustrating, the missed potential was too frustrating. I'm excited for today's release of Min Min into Smash Ultimate, and I hope we can continue to see this excellent world in ways that work out better than its original game. But you know what? Screw that, I'm kicking this game's ass right here, right now. Oh, thank God.